Obama under 50%, Goldman Sachs doing God's work, and a convicted murderer wants us to pay for his sex change. Now the news, or bust style. Got us by the sacks. How's this for an apology? Coming from CEO of Goldman Sachs, Mr. Blankfein. Quote, "There's also people who feel, and are right, that there's some meaningful things we may have done, not may have, certainly our industry is responsible for things, and we're a leader in our industry, and we participated in things that were clearly wrong, and we have reasons to regret and apologize for. Gee, thanks. I feel so much better. Don't you?" Those are the words of Goldman Sachs CEO. What a good guy, Lloyd+Blankfein, speaking at a New York forum for corporate board members. This is the same Goldman Sachs that took $12.9 billion in bailout funds after selling off about $40 billion in risky bonds based on futures, housing futures. At the same time, they were betting against it. They knew the market was going to collapse. They were dumping all the risky bonds they had created, creating this mess. And then they asked our government to bail it out. Part of the $180 billion that went to AIG, a chunk of that went to Goldman Sachs. And then months later, they reported almost a $3 billion profit. Thanks. This is the same CEO of Goldman Sachs, Mr. Blankfein, fine citizen, capitalist, philanthropist, who said recently that Goldman Sachs and bankers were doing, quote, God's work. Good people. While apologizing, he also announced a very, very aggressive and impressive program to dedicate $500 million to get small business loans out there in the marketplace. Thanks. This is the same CEO of Goldman Sachs, Mr. Blankfein, great individual, awesome person, whose company has already set aside $23 billion in bonuses for the vampires or scum or parasites or let's call them employees of Goldman Sachs. Good people. Capitalism works. Meanwhile, we're paying for Madoff's housing and food. More than a hand slap for messing with milk, Zhang Yijun and Geng Xingpeng were executed in China for the tainted milk scandal. That was last year. Several babies died, and almost 300,000 were sickened. 21 were tried and sentenced to around 15 years or more, but these two were unceremoniously executed. At the same time, Bernard Madoff is eagerly awaiting his Thanksgiving dinner. You know, the same one you're going to have, turkey, all the sides, some delicious pie. And look at that. Bernie Madoff is going to have some of your pie, paid for by you. Speaking of Thanksgiving dinner, here's a distraction. Cut that turkey, baby. Ow, 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 ow. Why are you doing that? Ow, not there. Don't. Ow, ow, that hurts. That. I was delicious. Addendum on lobbyists. As reported 2 weeks ago, 8% of lobbyists in D.C. have quit their jobs, said to be due to the Obama administration's strict ban on lobbyists working for the administration, but mostly so they can take a little vacation and then come back later and go work for the administration and make incredibly important policy decisions. Well, the hard times have not spread to the healthcare lobbying industry, it seems. Over 1,000 organizations have hired lobbyists in the last year, and this is to oppose healthcare reform. A few of these fine examples. Language Line Services, investor in lobbying of $90,000 in the past few years, convinced our elected officials to require Medicaid to cover 75% of all translation services. Good stuff, it works. And to prove that, Dave Liventhal of the fine Center+Responsive+Politics said, if lobbying didn't work, people wouldn't do it. The American+Beverage Association knows that it works too, because they hired a fifth lobbying firm to kill a proposed tax on sugary drinks. This was a tax that may have underwritten our healthcare reform, per se, but they spent $7.3 million on lobbying alone in 3 months to kill any chance of attacks on sugary drinks. Drink up that Coke. Tastes good, doesn't it? You'll pay for it later when your feet are cut off. Diabetes, great stuff. Other stuff to make you puke. Sexy yet disgraced South Carolina Governor Mark+Sanford is now facing 37 ethics charges related to his saying that he was hiking the Appalachian Trail when really he was fucking his mistress in Venezuela. Good classy guy. He's yet to resign, even though hearings on his impeachment are going to start next week. Great guy. We like him a lot. Rhode Island Bishop Thomas Tobin has asked Patrick Kennedy to not eat or drink the body of Christ. That's right. This is a Kennedy, and he's not allowed to take communion. He's a Catholic. His father was Teddy Kennedy, and his uncle was JFK, the first Catholic president in America. Fabulous church. I was raised Episcopal, and the Pope's recent reach out to Episcopals and others to join them. I'm going to have to think about that. Thanks, Benedict. Appreciate the offer, though. Breaking news. Holy cow. Nuclear power is totally safe. All right, totally. 3-Mile Island in Pennsylvania is misbehaving again, though. Alarms went off last Saturday at 4 p.m. and 150 workers had to be sent home due to contamination. This very minor issue, according to Exelon Nuclear, which operates 3-Mile Island. Thankfully, this latest leak wasn't on par with the 1979 minor incident at the same plant, including a partial meltdown and leaving all of the locals resembling the antagonists in I Am Legend. You'll be glad to know that 3-Mile Island is up and running again, and the workers are super, super happy to be there. More shames before you flush. 7 bulls broke free in Spain and injured 2 people on the set of a new movie being shot titled Night and Day. The real shame is that co-stars Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz were not on the set. Is that too harsh? I don't know. Scientology will save them if anything happens. And shame on the staff of the prison in Norfolk, Mass., who will not allow Robert/Michelle Koselleck to receive electrolysis treatments. You see, Robert was born a man, obviously, but he really, really wants to be a woman. And he's also known as a convicted murderer for killing his own wife. So he's in there and he's suing to have his sex changed. For fairly obvious reasons, prison officials are citing potential security issues and not allowing him to get a sex change, but he's still suing. Who's paying? And finally, on this Thanksgiving, shame on all of you Hopi-aided supporters of Obama. You pieces of poop who have fled him. God, what are you thinking? You know, the bandwagon did break down quick, but you know, a Gallup poll showed that Obama's ratings have dropped below 50% for the first time. Let's hope it doesn't follow Bush, who at the end of his presidency, after 8 years, only 3 total Americans approved of him. Himself, Dick Cheney, and Goldman Sachs CEO, Blankfein. That's the news, folks. We'll see you next week.
Oops.